52 episodes, 52 ordinary people, 52 real stories about things that affect overall health. Because there is a lot more that goes into being healthy than food and fitness. Inspiration, support, a new perspective, and knowledge. You'll find that and more here on the Healthability Project.
Welcome to the Healthability Project. I'm Robin McKenna. It is estimated that over 11% of the U.S. adult population has been diagnosed with diabetes, and that the cost of lost productivity associated with diabetes exceeds $90 billion US dollars. But what about the cost to the individual who has diabetes? A diagnosis of chronic disease forever alters one's lifestyle and capacity to live well, and impacts emotional and mental health. The effect on family and friends is far-reaching. Here to share her story of how diabetes has affected her overall health and well-being is Toye Johnson-Vincent. A native New Yorker with educational and career roots in New York, Massachusetts, Florida, and Georgia, Toye Johnson-Vincent is the self-dubbed No Sugarcoating Coach. An accomplished motivational speaker and career development strategist with a rich human resources background in corporate talent acquisition and training, Toye has presented nationally at conferences and in classrooms. She inspires audiences at professional association events and annual conferences through audience participation and her energetic personality. Toye is also the creator and host of the Speak to Me First podcast show. She continues to use her speaking platform of career development, personal development, and life skills journey coaching to inspire all audiences, including motivating adults and youth, on the importance of being resilient. Welcome to the Healthability Project, Toye. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robin. I appreciate being on your platform. It is my pleasure just to be invited. So again, thank you so much. I'm so happy that I don't even know where to begin. I guess I should begin with my journey.
Yes, that would be great. Why don't you tell us how you came to become diagnosed with the diabetes and then what your journey from there forward has been like?
Yeah, absolutely. Amazingly, we all have a story. And to keep it short and simple and concise, my story, when I found out that I was actually on the road to becoming a full diabetic, happened very, very simply. And that was in an outside, what they call the mobile medical vans, if you will, that was in a parking lot. And I was with my sister. And, I couldn't believe it, my sister and her children at the time. And we had just eaten a snack, what I would call my favorite hot dog and a soda. And it wasn't a diet soda. It was a soda that is with sugar. And, fine. We ate the same things. I thought nothing about it. And then we went to proceed. She said, let's just check out this mobile van, medical van, and see what they can offer. And I said, fine, I'll walk with you, but I have no intention of letting anybody stick me, poke me, or anything. Remember, I'm the no sugarcoating coach, even back then. And so we went in and all of that was said and done. She did her test, whatever she wanted, and for her children. And then I was next. I sat on the sidelines and the nurse said, well, we can do yours too. And we can do this and that. And I said, no, I'm good. Oh, I'm good. And I don't know what convinced me, but the way they talk, and when I saw it, that person was stuck with that. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I did. But her response to me was a bit different than it was my sister. And mind you, we did have the same or similar meal just within 30 minutes. So she says to me, have you seen your primary care regarding diabetes? It was sort of on the lines of that, because your sugar is actually a little bit higher than we normally would like. And I said, oh, I don't know. No. And of course, immediately I was somewhat in defense mode, like, no, I don't know. Maybe you don't know what you're talking about, don't know what you're doing. But okay, we all know that numbers for the most part don't lie, especially when we're doing tests and even if you need multiple. But that's what really happened. And I did do the follow-up. She encouraged me to do that. I took their number and name and everything. And so that person who I eventually saw had the information, because what good is it going to the primary care and you don't even know what the number was? And maybe your primary care said, oh, no worries. We don't need to do anything now. Let's wait. So that's how it all started. And it was pre-diabetic. Once they did all of the, more finite tests through the labs at my primary care, it was definitely, that was it.
So where were you in life? Were you in your 20s? Were you in your 30s?
Yeah, I was in my 30s.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you were
definitely was in my 30s.
relatively young to be facing such a diagnosis. What went through your
Yeah.
mind when it was confirmed that this is something you're going to have to deal with?
Wow. Denial. It was really, really denial with a capital D. I'm not kidding you, because I said, well, I've heard about it. I'm familiar with it. I realize it's a chronic disease, like when people talk about high blood pressure and anything like that. But, I'm just going to eat what I want. And of course, the medical people don't know what they're talking about, right?
Right.
And so whatever it is, I thought I could conquer it with just almost doing nothing, like, oh, this too shall pass.
Right.
Sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. So it did make me feel down about it. And then I was in denial, but I said, I have to do something. So I took the first medication they gave me.
And how did you react to that? How was that? How was that even fitting that into your daily schedule?
First of all, I didn't like it. That's number one. And I kept fighting, even though I was taking the medication. And then it did make me feel good. And in fact, I thought I was feeling sick, and what really happened is the first medication that they gave me, it was actually too strong, because my A1C at that time was not as high, or at least the doses they gave me of that particular medicine, I should not have had. So, and that was the nurse practitioner gave that to me because my primary care was just not there that day. And so that was a decision, again, not knowing what I'm really taking. I just know I want to be better and I want to be healthy and I don't want to be in trouble, with diabetes. So that was a thought. But I felt down. I felt somewhat alone, because you don't want to tell people, oh, diabetes, oh boy, what are you, something wrong. You're not going to be yourself. You won't be able to, go to meetings or speak or whatever it is and continue to network, which I love to do. But as I know today, that's not the case.
Right. And I think that, I guess when we're young, we have the tendency to just be afraid or just thinking, okay, all cards are off the table now. Rather than thinking, okay, how am I going to live with this? What's the strategy for living with it? But what was your strategy? What did you do from when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking that, because a lot of people say, well, they're diagnosed and then they don't understand what the rest of the journey is like. And by the way, for all of the, the listeners out here globally, my journey, I'm still in it. The diabetes, I say I don't have diabetes, or I say diabetes doesn't have me. It's a title that I don't even really want, but because I realize and I'm no longer in denial, I can talk about it and talk about how I went from A to D. And right now it's great. It's much better. And what I realized too is that having a healthier A1C, which is the levels, and they take your labs every between 2 and 4 months. Right now, I'm on the 3.5 month, because I sort of told my primary care, listen, I'm tired of coming in here every 3 months. So we said, okay, all right, somewhere between 3 and 4. But the reality is, I just got real with me. Okay. You have to get real with yourself, your family, your friends. They can't help you do that. They may say, well, why don't you just take the pill and be done with it? Or why don't you use insulin if they want you to? So I said, well, I'll do the starter kit. Okay. I'll do the pill. And I've changed different types of pills and all of that. And it did get better. And then I just sort of jumped off the bandwagon where, I'll take a pill today. I won't do it tomorrow. I'm okay today. I went through all of that. But now it's different. I'm no longer in my 30s. And so I had to get real. And it's be a pretty complicated chronic disease if you let it or allow it to.
Mm-hmm. What was your life like before the diagnosis? You and I had spoken earlier in the week that, you were quite a busy human resources executive and therefore working very long hours and having to catch meals on the fly. And how does that compare to the way you live now? And obviously with the diagnosis of diabetes, it's not just an issue of incorporating medication into your diet. It's a lifestyle change. And how did that affect you? Did it take you a long time to adjust your lifestyle?
Yes, absolutely. The one thing I had good going for me is that I'm a runner. I love to jog. So if you live in my house, I'm probably going to leave you behind because I'm going to run. And living in New England at the time when I was diagnosed, it's just so beautiful and pretty in the parks and everything. And I said, this is part of my Get Real campaign with myself. And, so I would walk a few and then I jog a few. And then I figured out, wow, I can actually run even faster. And that was really helping to keep that A1C down, which, by today's standards, everyone wants it to be lower than 7%, but ideally anywhere below 6%. So, trying to go to work and not telling people that, I have to eat. I know the meeting starts right now, but you know what? I need to get a meal or I need to take my medicine and all of that. And I say to people all of the time, you just have to do it. And it's okay to let somebody know. Because what good is it going to help me that I was jogging, I was doing everything, but then I would say, well, I need the meeting first and then I'll eat. And then that didn't work because I felt like my sugar was going too low. So I had to really design a way to make my day work for me, including my commute home until I had my full meal. But small meals throughout the day, fruits, incorporated a little bit more vegetables, all the ones that, my mom said, eat it, that you didn't want. Put it this way, I now love broccoli.
Was it hard around the holidays with family and family traditions and special meals? And how do you come to terms with that? I would think it'd be pretty challenging.
Yes, that's true. Fortunately for me, the kind of sweets that I love to eat, they don't really serve it at Thanksgiving. I'm kind of like, I'll go into just the regular corner store and say, hey, wait a minute, you have 2 cupcakes, the old Hostess cupcakes, which I absolutely love. And, it was donuts or, my favorite Dunkin' Donuts donut. Why would I go to Dunkin' without getting a donut, right? I don't drink coffee, but I do love the donuts. So, it's something. But I learned when I went into the store, I can order the unsweet iced tea. And then I eventually developed an acquired taste for just lack of sugar or no sugar at all. And until this day, I take no sugar in any of my beverages when I'm outside. But I do keep sugar in the house for emergencies. But overall, I do not.
So it seems like in your early 30s or mid 30s, you had this diagnosis and it was pretty defeating and pretty scary. And
Yes.
It seems that you toyed around with what would work or not work for you. And then maybe a little further down the road, you came to terms with what it really meant and what it really was. Do you feel like it was a win after all, as far as the changes that you made? What you had to give up, but what you got in return, just from even your physical health and your mental health, your emotional health?
Absolutely, because I remember what my total weight in terms of weight was when I was in New England versus when I eventually, worked and lived in the Florida market and now here in the greater Atlanta area. So it's a huge difference for me. And they say even 10 pounds could help you drop that A1C. Wow. So again, for me, with my mindset, though, I was still stubborn after all these years because people can tell you all day long, including your doctors, you need to take that because you understand there's a complication or could be complications of having different chronic diseases. And what does chronic mean? I mean, it's just there. So you have to deal with it. If you don't, it will deal with you. And again, instead of being the no sugar coating coach, I really am the no sugar part of it. Because I go, oh my goodness. And it didn't mean when I realized the importance and how complications can arise, it didn't matter what age you are. You could be 30s and have complications. but you need to stay, whether it's stay on your medicines. That's what I do. See my doctor regularly to get the A1C blood work done, which is right now I'm doing it every between 3 and 4 months. And the lifestyle itself, if that's not good for me, I don't want it. So if everyone's out to dinner and they're eating, I'm preparing my meals in my head before I even get to the restaurant. I already know what I'll order, meaning lack of sauces or lack of this, lack of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with that. And again, the most important thing is about communication. I communicate with people around me, whether it's in a workplace or a play place, that I am diabetic. And so you may be doing this for 2 hours, but I need to stop, take a break, and do what I need to do for my health. And that may mean take a small meal here and there, or what I need to do in private or what have you. Yeah, and make it work.
I love what you say about either you deal with it or it deals with you. And clearly you took the initiative and said, I'm going to deal with it. I mean, do you feel like there's a greater sense that you have a greater sense of power or a greater sense of confidence that you have really taken control of this chronic disease versus it taking over you? And sadly, we do see that happens sometimes to people where, for whatever reason, they either don't have the resources or the support network to champion it, and it runs them over. It's clearly not your case. And I'm just curious if, your confidence level, if you've noticed, increase because of the fact that you are so totally in control of this now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because just having the disease itself, but it not having me, I don't like anything to control me. Mm-hmm. And I think individually, personalities will differ from one person to another. Some people say, well, I have this, I'm cool, I won't do anything. They can't tell me what to do. Okay, even my doctor. And you have to say, for me, I'm saying, oh, I know he's right. I know he's right. So you know what? But I am a winner. And that's the way I like to think. Even on my worst days, sometimes I don't feel right. I feel sluggish. That means my sugar is high. So I'm not in the mood right now. I just want to move around. Now I got to move around a little bit faster to get this sugar down. I have ups and downs on the sugar levels. And if you're testing your blood sugar, it stays with me. I have the device that I have to use to take it. So, it's a part of me, but it doesn't define me. Mm-hmm. And that's why I believe in my heart and my mind that I'm a winner, even including having a chronic disease, which millions of people, and by the way, 1.4 million, I did look that up, of Americans, the type 2 are diagnosed every year. But for African Americans such as myself, they can be twice as, likely to get this diagnosis. Yeah.
Wow, that's an extraordinarily high number. Wow. The message of mindset is amazing. And if you're not out on the circuit talking to people about diabetes, you should be. You should be.
I was on a podcast, and that person had overcame their diabetes in terms of reversal. They're doing their thing that way. But I remember it was just part of my story of resilience, because I have other stories, but that's just one of the resilience stories. And I am by no means saying that I'm always out of the woods, because I'm not, because it tells me I'm still taking medication. So I'm not that diabetic who is not on medication any longer. I believe that I probably will continue to stay on it because I realize it's helping me. And my A1Cs has gone up, it's gone down, but things happen in your life, and that stress can creep in, and you start to eat things you shouldn't, and whatever's going on through the pandemic, that wasn't a good time for many of us with diabetes, especially, or high blood pressure for that matter.
And I think it's important that you do emphasize the fact that you view the medication you take as a partnership to managing this and being in control of it rather than it being in control of you. And, we all know with all medications, sometimes people take it only for, a little bit, or they're very inconsistent, and then it's not effective. So that's a great viewpoint for, looking at your medication as a partner to change the disease.
Yes. And if I'm going to collaborate, it'll be with my pill box to let me know. And, and one thing I might add on that, I remember I was only taking, the one pill a day, and I'm still at the gateway drug, as people call it, and it's out there. People will know the drug metformin. That's no secret. Everybody, they typically start on that. But there's so many other and better drugs out now that are helping people where they're getting off of metformin and they're trying something else. I tend to say, if it's not broke, don't, leave it alone. If my body has accepted it, that's why I still take it. But I just doubled up on it because I don't want the complications. I know what it can look like. And I thought I did have one of those millions of complications. So, and I'll keep an eye on that as well. And that's what I mean about I can be up and down and up and down. But ultimately, at least I have my finger on the pulse. Mm-hmm. And so does my doctor, who, again, in the beginning, I don't want to listen to you.
Well, Toye, this has been a really great conversation and so informative. And really, you're such an example and a role model for championing a chronic disease, which is very hard to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Listeners, we hope that you enjoyed our conversation today with Toye Johnson-Vincent. Please like us, share us, tell your friends about us. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can email us at thehealthabilityproject@gmail.com. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today at the Healthability Project. We'd love to hear from you, so please email us your questions, comments, or suggestions, including future guests, to thehealthabilityproject@gmail.com. And please like us, subscribe, and share us with your friends.